There live.
Hi Instagram, happy Thirsty Thursday. Hope everyone's having a lovely start end to the week really. So following on from what we spoke about last week on Thirsty Thursday, I thought I'd talk a little bit about thoracic mobility and the importance of thoracic mobility. So your thoracic spine is from the bottom of your neck to the top of your low back. It's through the thoracic spine that we hold our sympathetic nervous system, so our fight or flight part of the nervous system. It's also where our ribs attach into, so it's a really important area that should be able to move in order for us to breathe. Now, because we live such sedentary lives now, one of the most common things that we see, particularly in practice, is something called hyperkyphosis, or that rounding through a process where they have a little bit of a hump. So an indication that you may be tight through the upper back may actually be that you feel a real prominence right at the top of the neck here. What it also means is when you're hyperkyphotic, because it changes your center of gravity, as we get older, you're more, there's an increase in risk for falls and fractures, which we know are not great. So anything that you can do now to help to improve that mobility is not only going to help you right here and now, but also in the future. The other thing that we see commonly when someone is quite rounded through the upper back is we get that tension across the top of the shoulders up into the head, headaches. It also shuts down our ability to take a deep breath. And you can try this now as you're sitting there. If you sit up nice and tall, try and take a deep breath in through your belly and out. And then go into that really hunched position and then try and take a deep breath in. Doesn't really work so well. So another really important thing to work with that thoracic mobility is ensuring that your body is getting enough oxygen. We know that when we're starved for oxygen, it's going to affect our focus, our concentration, but also again put us into that fight or flight mode where we have to start to use our accessory breathing muscles. So what I thought I would share today are some great mobility exercises, but also strength exercises. So it's important to remember that your spine needs to do two things. It needs to be able to move and it needs to be strong. Depending on where you're at with your chiropractic care or just generally where you're at day to day, making sure that you're working on that mobility, number one, is really important. So a good way that you can test your mobility is you can either do this up against a wall or down on the ground. So you want to lie on your back with your feet flat on the ground. You want to tuck your pelvis under, so your lumbar spine is in a neutral position. And then taking your arms up over your head, you want to see if you get them flat onto the ground. Now, if you have reduced thoracic mobility or tightness, what you may find is that you get to about here and it feels like you've really got to force them down. Or you may actually feel like you need to extend through your low back in order to get that range. They're two indications that you've got tension through the thoracic spine. So these may be some really good exercises for you to do. Now, the first one you can do with a foam roller, or you can do it with a ball. So certainly if you've got kids at home, you've probably got footballs, basketballs, netballs lying around. What you want to do for this is take your foam roller, take your ball, pop it sideways, and then just hands on either side of your head and just let your back come back. Now, be careful not to hyperextend over the top of the foam roller. Just extend slightly. With thoracic extension, we should only get about 10 degrees. So just coming back, and then you can come back up. And then on the way out, hold for a few moments, and coming up. And you can do this at different positions down the thoracic spine. So where you feel particularly tight, pop the foam roller in that position and then see if you can extend over the top. The next one that I'm sure a lot of you are probably quite familiar with is the cat-cow. This one's good for thoracic mobility, lumbar mobility, and it's just a good thing to do in the mornings as you're getting up. So what you want to do is, as you breathe out, you want to engage your core and round up in through that thoracic spine. And then as you breathe in, you want to lift your head and try and extend in through that upper back, keeping your shoulders locked back and down. And usually when I'm doing cat-cow, I like to do about 5 or 10 rotations through. It's a good way to break up sitting at a desk, but also for kids who are being homeschooled at the moment. This is a fantastic exercise to not only increase that mobility, but also to help with that flow of oxygen to the brain. So really important for focus and concentration. The next one that you can do to help with your thoracic mobility, remember that not only do we go forward and back, but we also need to be able to rotate through that thoracic spine. It's called thread the needle. So it's called thread the needle because imagine that your arm is like a thread, and this hole is like the eye of a needle. What you want to do, you want to again engage your core, breathing in, lifting your arm up, hold that for a few seconds, and as you breathe out, you want to try and extend your arm through, and then breathing in and back out. Again, doing this on both sides, what you probably find is that one side is more flexible than the other, just based on what we do day to day. Again, 5 or 10 times on both sides. And the next one is child's pose. Again, anyone who's done yoga is probably quite, knows what child's pose is. This is an awesome one to do at the end of the day. We're going to do it a little bit differently today though. So rather than having your arms out in front of you, which you can, feels quite good, you can also have your hands underneath your forehead and trying to push your chest down towards the ground. So what that's going to do is it's going to encourage some extension through that thoracic spine. And as you're breathing in, you want to come up a little bit, and as you breathe out, you want to try and get that chest nice and low to the ground. And the final exercise for mobilizing, so for getting some movement in, is actually about releasing through your diaphragm. So we know that because where the ribs attach into the thoracic spine, if we have tension through the diaphragm, that's going to change the depth of the breath. We can actually subluxate or lock up through that thoracic spine. So for this one, all you need is a ball. This one looks a little bit funny, and I certainly don't recommend it after having breakfast, lunch, or dinner. What you're going to do is with that ball, you want to pop it underneath your tummy. So not up at the hard part of the ribs, but just down where the bottom of your ribs are. Lying over it like this, head onto your hands, and trying to breathe into your back body. So trying to breathe in and out. And in and out. So again, doing that through 5 or 10 rounds of breath helps to release in through that diaphragm, and you should find that you have a bit more range after doing that. So there are 5 exercises to work on mobility. The next few exercises we're going to focus on strength. So one of the common things that happens is when we go into that sort of hyperkyphotic, or what we call proximal cross syndrome, what happens is not only do we lose mobility coming back, the muscles through the front get tight. We went through some stretches last week, but the muscles at the back get weak. So it's really important not to just stretch the muscles that feel tight through the neck and through the front of the chest, but we actually want to strengthen through the back. If all you're doing is stretching here and not strengthening through the back, then you go straight back into that position when you're on computers or doing anything in front of you. So the first one is called Bruggers release, and this one you can do sitting at a desk. You can do it whilst you're sitting on the ground. What this one is if you have your hands like you're holding onto plates like a waiter. When you breathe in, when you breathe out, you want to try and open your arms up here, and breathing in and out. From the side, what you should have your chin in line with your shoulders, breathing in and out. and in and out. So that's exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is a low row. So this one, if you have any resistance bands or elastic bands at home, what you can do is pop them around your feet. Now, depending on your flexibility, you can have your legs straight or bent. Holding the rope, bringing your shoulders back and down, so locking them into your rib cage. And as you breathe out, you want to squeeze your shoulders back and down, and then let go. And in and out. What you don't want to be doing is being in this position, because you'll automatically feel that here. You really want to make sure that you're sitting up nice and tall, engaging through your core and squeezing through those shoulder blades. And the next one is Superman. So again, Superman is all about trying to lift the arms up and activating all down through the back. This is again a great one to do for school-aged kids, especially if you're finding that they're in that slumped position. So Superman, exactly what it sounds like. Hands out in front of you, engaging through your bum, engaging through your core. And as you breathe out, you want to lift up. Now you can do that just with your arms, or you can do it with arms and legs. It's all about activating through your extensors. A progression of this one is you can come up onto your knees, and again, finding that position in between cat and cow, engaging through your core, tucking your chin back, bringing your shoulders back and down, and then you can lift up on one side, lift up on the other, taking care not to switch from side to side and not to overextend or curve down too much. So they are the exercises for mobility of the thoracic spine and also strengthening through the thoracic spine. Now, what's going to work for you depends on where you're at with your care again. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave a message or get in touch via email. I hope you've all found this nice and helpful. Give it a try today whilst you're sitting at the computer, and we'd love to hear from you. And next week, we are doing a spring cleaning special. So everything that we post online next week is going to be all about spring cleaning now that April's here. We've also started a Northcote chiropractic Facebook group for any of our clients. If you are interested in being a part of that, please get in contact via email at info@northcotechiropractic.co.uk or reaching out to your chiropractor on their personal email. Hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday. I hope you found that useful, and we'll see you next week. Bye. And can you save it up on the corner?
So yeah, if you want to
Up on
end,
the corner,
yes.
save it up on the corner.
It says end now.